My name is Carmen. I'm 31 years old. And if anyone had ever asked me what the most devastating day of my life was, I used to think it would be impossible to choose until last Tuesday, when I discovered that my twin sister had been systematically destroying my life for over 2 years. It started with a phone call I was never supposed to receive. I was sitting in my doctor's office, 8 months pregnant, waiting for my routine appointment when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. Pregnant women develop a paranoia about missing important calls. Is this Carmen Rodriguez? The voice was professional, clinical. Yes, this is Carmen. This is Dr. Patricia Mills from Riverside Fertility Clinic. I'm calling because we've had an unusual situation arise with your account, and I wanted to discuss it with you directly. My blood went cold. I'd never heard of Riverside Fertility Clinic. I think you have the wrong person. I've never been to your clinic. There was a pause. According to our records, you've been a patient here for 18 months. You've undergone multiple IVF cycles under our care, and you're currently scheduled for another consultation next week. I gripped the phone tightly. That's impossible. I've never had fertility treatments. I'm 8 months pregnant naturally. The silence stretched longer this time. Mrs. Rodriguez, this is very concerning. According to our files, you've been struggling with infertility for years. We have extensive medical records, insurance claims, and treatment histories. Are you saying someone has been impersonating you? My hands started shaking. What name do you have on file? Carmen Rodriguez, date of birth March 15th, 1992. Same social security number that you provided when you called to schedule today's appointment. I hadn't called to schedule anything. Dr. Mills, I need you to describe the woman who's been coming to your clinic. Another pause. Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm not comfortable discussing patient details over the phone. But given what you're telling me, I think you should come in immediately. This appears to be a case of medical identity theft, and it's quite serious. I hung up and sat in my car outside the doctor's office, my 8-month belly pressed against the steering wheel, trying to process what I'd just heard. Someone had been using my identity to receive fertility treatments. Someone who knew my personal information, my social security number, my birth date. Someone who looked enough like me to convince medical professionals. If you're drawn to stories about betrayal that cut deeper than you could ever imagine, about family bonds that become weapons, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We bring you shocking real-life narratives every week. Stories that will make you question everything you think you know about the people closest to you. Your support helps us continue sharing these incredible stories that remind us how thin the line between love and deception really is. Now, let's see how Carmen uncovers a betrayal so profound it will change everything she believes about her family. I drove straight to Riverside Fertility Clinic, my mind racing through possibilities. The receptionist, a kind woman in her 50s, looked up when I approached the desk. I'm Carmen Rodriguez. I believe there's been some kind of mistake with my account. Her face lit up with recognition. Carmen, we weren't expecting you until next week. How are you feeling? Dr. Mills said your last cycle showed some promising signs. I stared at her. This woman knew me. Or thought she did. I need to speak with Dr. Mills immediately. There's been a misunderstanding. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Dr. Mills, a competent-looking woman in her 40s, as she pulled up my supposed medical file on her computer. Mrs. Rodriguez, I have to say, you look different today. Have you lost weight? Dr. Mills, I've never been in this office before in my life. I'm 8 months pregnant, as you can clearly see. I've never had fertility issues. Her confusion was genuine. But we've been treating you for unexplained infertility for over a year. You've had multiple failed IVF attempts. You were devastated after the last one failed in September. Can you show me a photo from your records? Dr. Mills hesitated. We don't typically photograph patients, but... She turned her computer screen toward me. Security camera footage from the lobby, dated 3 weeks ago. A woman was walking through the entrance, signing in at the reception desk. My identical twin sister, Lucia. The woman who'd been my maid of honor 2 years ago. The sister who'd held my hand through our father's funeral 6 months ago. The sister who'd been coming to every one of my prenatal appointments, bringing me prenatal vitamins and organic groceries, telling me how excited she was to be an aunt. That's not me, I whispered. Dr. Mills stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. But the resemblance is remarkable. Are you twins? Identical twins. My voice came out flat, emotionless. Dr. Mills, my sister has been impersonating me, using my insurance, my identity, pretending to be me to receive fertility treatments. But why would she do that? I thought about Lucia's recent behavior, her sudden interest in my pregnancy, her insistence on accompanying me to doctor's appointments, her questions about my birth plan, my pediatrician, my maternity leave plans, her offer to help with the baby as much as you need. I think she's been planning to steal my baby. The next few hours blurred together. Police reports, insurance fraud investigations, and medical records reviews. Dr. Mills provided 18 months of detailed documentation showing Carmen Rodriguez receiving fertility treatments, growing increasingly desperate with each failed attempt. But the most chilling discovery came when Dr. Mills showed me the notes from Lucia's last appointment. She asked very specific questions about newborn care, Dr. Mills explained. Feeding schedules, sleep patterns, and how to establish early bonding. At the time, I thought she was just being hopeful about future treatments, but now it sounds like she was preparing to care for someone else's newborn. I drove home in a daze, my mind trying to piece together Lucia's plan. She'd been setting up a medical history of infertility treatments under my identity. She'd been learning everything she could about newborn care. She'd positioned herself as the devoted aunt who would help with the baby. How exactly had she planned to take my child? A fake emergency? A temporary babysitting arrangement that became permanent? The possibilities made me sick. At home, I sat in the nursery I'd spent months preparing, the crib Lucia had helped me assemble, the mobile she'd bought, the rocking chair she'd insisted on contributing. Everything felt contaminated now. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucia. Can't wait for dinner tonight. I have a surprise for you and the baby. For the first time in my life, I was afraid of my twin sister. I called my husband James at work. I need you to come home immediately. It's about Lucia. What's wrong? Is she okay? She's been stealing my identity for over a year. I think she's planning to take our baby. The silence stretched. Carmen, that sounds crazy. Are you sure you're feeling all right? Pregnancy can sometimes. James, I have 18 months of medical records proving she's been impersonating me at a fertility clinic. This isn't pregnancy paranoia. This is real. That evening, James and I sat at our dining room table across from Lucia, who'd arrived with a wrapped gift and her usual bright smile. She looked exactly like me, same dark hair, same brown eyes, same facial structure that had made us impossible to tell apart as children. I'm so excited for you guys, she gushed, pushing the gift across the table. Open it. Inside was a baby book with our family story embossed on the cover. I thought I could help document everything, Lucia continued. All the important firsts. I could even babysit regularly so you can get some rest. New mothers need so much support. Lucia, I said carefully, I went to Riverside Fertility Clinic today. Her smile faltered for just a second before recovering. Oh, why would you go there? Because they called me. Apparently, I've been a patient there for 18 months. The color drained from Lucia's face. Carmen, I don't know what you're talking about. They have security footage, Lucia, of you, pretending to be me, using my insurance to pay for fertility treatments. James leaned forward. Lucia, what the hell is going on? For a long moment, Lucia said nothing. Then something in her expression shifted. The mask of sisterly devotion fell away, replaced by something cold and calculating. You have no idea what it's like, she said quietly. What's it like? Being the twin who can't have children. Watching you get pregnant so easily while I've been trying for 3 years with nothing to show for it. My heart stopped. You and David have been trying? David left me 8 months ago because I couldn't give him a baby. Said he wanted to start fresh with someone who could actually fulfill his dreams of being a father. I stared at my sister, seeing her clearly for the first time. The slight weight loss I'd attributed to stress. The sadness in her eyes, I thought, was grief over our father. The increasing focus on my pregnancy I'd mistaken for excitement about becoming an aunt. Lucia, why didn't you tell me you were struggling? I would have supported you through fertility treatments. You didn't need to steal my identity. She laughed, a bitter sound. Support me? Like you support me through the divorce? Like you supported me when Dad died, and you were too busy with mourning sickness to help plan the funeral. That's not fair. I was there for you. You were there physically, but emotionally, you were already focused on your precious baby. The baby I'll never have. James stood up. Lucia, you need to leave. Now. No, she said firmly. I've put too much work into this. Work into what? Into creating a life where I can have what you have. Carmen's identity at the fertility clinic establishes a pattern of failed attempts, of desperation for a child. When Carmen tragically dies in childbirth due to complications that couldn't be foreseen, and her grief-stricken twin sister is left to raise the only piece of her left in the world. The room went dead silent. You've been planning to kill me? Not kill you. Just create an opportunity for the universe to correct its mistake. You were always the lucky one, Carmen. The one who got married first got the better job, got pregnant easily. Maybe it's time I had a turn at being the fortunate twin. James moved toward the phone. I'm calling the police. I wouldn't do that, Lucia said calmly. She pulled a syringe from her purse. This is concentrated oxytocin. It'll trigger immediate labor contractions. At 8 months, the baby has a good chance of surviving, but you? Sudden onset labor combined with the complications I'm about to create. She shrugged. Medical emergencies happen. I felt the baby kick, as if sensing danger. Lucia, please. You're my sister. I love you. Love isn't enough, Carmen. Love doesn't give me the baby I can't have. Love doesn't fix the empty crib in my apartment or the divorce papers on my kitchen table. We can figure this out together. There are other options. Adoption, surrogacy. Other people's children aren't the same. This baby is family. Your baby should have been my baby, but since nature made a mistake, I'm correcting it. That's when I realized the full scope of her planning. The fertility treatments under my name weren't just about creating a medical history. They were about establishing her as someone desperate enough for a child that no one would question her sudden acquisition of a newborn. The baby book, I said suddenly. You were going to document your child's life from birth. Our child's life. I'll tell everyone how grateful I am that you asked me to help raise your baby after you died. It's what you would have wanted. James lunged for the phone, but Lucia was faster. She grabbed his wrist with one hand while keeping the syringe steady with the other. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, she said. Carmen's death will look like a tragic complication. The baby will survive and go to the loving aunt who's been so devoted throughout the pregnancy. Everyone wins. Except me. You'll never know the difference. I stood up slowly, my hand protectively over my belly. Lucia, I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. What if I gave you the baby willingly? What if we told everyone I decided I wasn't ready to be a mother and I asked you to adopt? Hope flickered in her eyes. You'd do that? If it means staying alive to see my child grow up, yes. James stared at me in horror, but I caught his eye and gave him a tiny nod. I needed to keep Lucia talking while I figured out our next move. How would that work? Lucia asked. Private adoption. We'd go through the legal channels. You'd get the baby, I'd get to be the fun aunt who visits occasionally. Everyone thinks it's a beautiful family arrangement. Lucia considered this. But what about James? He'd never agree. James wants what's best for the baby, if I'm not ready to be a mother. You're lying, Lucia said flatly. You'd never give up your child willingly. Not my perfect sister who has everything. She raised the syringe. That's when I grabbed the baby book from the table and hurled it at her face. The distraction was enough for James to tackle her, sending the syringe flying across the room. I ran for the phone and called 911, my hands shaking as I spoke to the dispatcher. My sister is trying to kill me to steal my baby. I need police and paramedics immediately. Lucia and James were struggling on the floor, both reaching for the syringe. I kicked it under the refrigerator, out of reach. Carmen, help me. Lucia screamed as James pinned her down. I'm your twin. I'm your family. Family doesn't try to murder each other for babies, I replied. The police arrived within minutes, followed by paramedics who checked both me and the baby for any signs of distress. Lucia was arrested on charges of attempted murder, medical identity theft, and insurance fraud. As they led her away in handcuffs, she looked back at me. You don't deserve that, baby, Carmen. You've never deserved anything you have. Maybe not, I said. But I earned it, and I'll protect it. 3 weeks later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl, Isabella. James and I agreed never to tell her the full story of how she almost lost her mother before she was born. But we also agreed to be vigilant about protecting her from people who might see her as something to be taken rather than someone to be loved. The investigation into Lucia's identity theft revealed the extent of her planning. She'd been building false medical records for 2 years, learning everything about newborn care, and even researching how to forge adoption documents. Her apartment contained nursery furniture identical to mine and baby clothes in the same sizes I'd bought. Most chilling was the journal police found, detailing her daily surveillance of my pregnancy and plans for acquiring the baby. She'd been planning my death for months, waiting for the right moment when the baby was viable, but I was still vulnerable. Lucia was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The judge noted that identity theft combined with attempted murder showed a level of premeditation that warranted the maximum sentence. I didn't attend the sentencing. I was at home with Isabella, finally able to enjoy my daughter without fear. 6 months later, I received a letter from Lucia in prison. It was short. "Carmen, I've had time to think about what I did, and I want you to know I'm sorry. I was consumed by jealousy and grief, and I lost sight of who I was supposed to be as your sister. I know you'll never forgive me, but I hope someday Isabella will understand that her aunt loved her enough to lose herself trying to have her. Take care of our girl." I read the letter once and threw it away. Lucia was right about one thing: I would never forgive her. But she was wrong about Isabella being our girl. Isabella was my daughter, protected by my choices and raised with my love. Sometimes, when I look at Isabella's perfect little face, I wonder if Lucia sees any resemblance to herself. If she regrets the path that led her away from being the aunt who could have loved this child properly, instead of the prisoner who tried to steal her. But mostly, I don't think about Lucia at all. I think about the future. Isabella and I will build together, free from the shadow of someone who confused wanting something with deserving it. Love isn't about taking what belongs to someone else. It's about protecting what matters most, even when that protection requires you to stand against family. And sometimes, the strongest love is the love that says no. 2 years later, Isabella took her first steps in the same nursery where Lucia once planned to raise her as her own. I caught it all on video, but I didn't send it to anyone. Some moments are too precious to share with people who see them as opportunities rather than miracles. James and I have started talking about having another baby. This time, we'll be more careful about who we trust with our hopes and dreams. This time, we know that family can be the most dangerous threat of all when it's driven by envy instead of love. But we're not afraid anymore. We've learned that protecting what matters most isn't about avoiding all risks. It's about recognizing threats before they become crises and choosing courage over convenience when the people we love are at stake. Isabella will grow up knowing she was wanted, protected, and cherished by parents who chose truth over family loyalty when that choice meant the difference between life and death. And that's a legacy worth every sacrifice we made to give it to her. On Isabella's 2nd birthday, as she blew out candles on a cake I'd made myself in our kitchen, I realized that Lucia had given me an unexpected gift. Not intentionally, but through her betrayal, she taught me that the most important family bonds aren't the ones you're born with. They're the ones you choose to honor through your actions. James and I chose each other. We chose Isabella. We chose protection over politeness, safety over family harmony, truth over the comfortable lies that keep dysfunctional relationships intact. Lucia chose envy, theft, and attempted murder. She chose to see my joy as her loss, my good fortune as her deprivation, my child as her missing piece. In the end, we both got exactly what we chose. I chose love, and I got a family worth protecting. She chose hate, and she got exactly what hate always produces: isolation, loss, and the knowledge that she destroyed something beautiful for no reason except her own inability to create it. Sometimes the people who share your DNA are the ones who pose the greatest threat to everything you hold dear. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is admit that blood relationship doesn't guarantee loyalty, and that protecting your children means protecting them from everyone who sees them as possessions rather than people. Isabella sleeps peacefully in her crib tonight, unaware of the woman in prison who once planned to raise her, unaware of the aunt who loved the idea of her more than the reality of what taking her would have cost. She'll grow up knowing only the love that chose her protection over everything else. And that's exactly as it should be. Carmen's story reminds us that sometimes the greatest threats come from the people who should love us most. Her twin sister's betrayal wasn't just about stealing a baby. It was about the dangerous delusion that we're entitled to other people's happiness simply because we want it. Carmen's courage to protect her child, even from family, shows us that true love isn't about blood relations or shared history. It's about choosing to do what's right, even when what's right means standing against people who share your face and your past. What would you have done in Carmen's situation? How far would you go to protect your child from family members who pose a threat? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories about betrayal, family secrets, and the courage it takes to protect what matters most when the people closest to you become the people you should fear most.